Tonight, passengers left scrambling as Air Canada begins canceling flights ahead of a possible strike this weekend.
It's extremely nerve-wracking because we have no clue if we're going to be able to make it.
With travel plans thrown into chaos, the blame game heats up in a bitter dispute between the airline and flight attendants. After days of raging wildfires, devastation and loss in Newfoundland.
What do you say to someone that they lost their home?
The heartbreak and the growing anger that some fires could have been set on purpose. A German soccer superstar gets a Canadian welcome.
I want to be on the pitch as soon as possible.
Meet the newest edition of the Vancouver Whitecaps.
From CBC News, this is The National with Christine Barak.
Thanks for joining us. Adrian is away. The labor dispute between Air Canada and thousands of flight attendants is now spilling over into Canadians' travel plans. Air Canada is canceling flights by the dozen ahead of a potential strike Saturday. The first to go, long-haul international flights. Then the company says it will cancel hundreds more flights on Friday. Tensions between the airline and its workers are on full display as the clock ticks down. Flight attendants are demanding higher pay and both sides are blaming each other. As Jamie Strachan reports, thousands of passengers are now caught in the crossfire.
For Air Canada passengers hoping to get home or take a long-anticipated holiday, a looming job action has turned plans upside down, including this father hoping to get to Newfoundland and Labrador to see his daughter compete in the Canada Games.
It's extremely nerve-wracking because we have no clue if we're going to be able to make it.
With no deal between Air Canada and its more than 10,000 flight attendants, a strike or lockout could begin early Saturday morning. The airline is already canceling some flights, starting with international long hauls. Nerve-wracking for Letitia Halbadal, trying to get home from Taipei to write an exam.
I'm just really worried that if I don't get back on time and I can't take this, I'm not going to be able to graduate.
Air Canada says 500 more flights will be canceled Friday.
On Saturday morning, we'll be completely grounded. We expect that will affect 130,000 customers a day, including 25,000 Canadians a day that we usually bring home from abroad who risk to be stranded.
The airline says customers can change travel plans without a fee and will receive refunds if flights are canceled. Beyond that, few options.
Unfortunately, this being the peak of the summer travel season, our ability to rebook customers on other airlines will be very limited.
The two sides appear deeply divided. Flight attendants interrupting the airline's morning press conference.
I'm really sorry about the questions that we have not been able to answer. We'll stop here. Thank you.
The major sticking point, wages. The union, CUPE, says many of its flight attendants struggle to buy food and pay rent.
We believe our flight attendants deserve a wage they can live with and to change this industry into a career.
Two sides are currently not speaking, meaning there could be major disruptions ahead for those slated to fly on Canada's largest airline. Travelers arriving at the airport being given this pamphlet, Air Canada Labor Negotiations and Your Travel Plans. People being reminded that if their flights are canceled, they will not be automatically rebooked. And because this is a potential labor dispute, no compensation provided for any hotel rooms needed.
Jamie, what's the next step in all of this?
Well, Air Canada has asked the federal government to intervene, send this dispute to binding arbitration. CUPE has until noon tomorrow to provide a response to this idea. But listening to leadership from the CUPE side today, no indication that they have any interest in doing this. Christine?
Thanks, Jamie. Jamie Strachan at Pearson Airport tonight. We're now seeing the devastation from Newfoundland and Labrador's largest wildfire. The Kingston Fire has destroyed around 100 homes and buildings. As Karen Pauls shows us, news of what's been lost has been tough for many to deliver and even harder to take in.
I assume you mean using maybe potential helicopters or things like that.
Wildfire briefings are personal for Jerry Rogers and Peg Norman.
Oh my God.
They were forced to flee the Kingston fire on the Newfoundland Avalon Peninsula.
And that concludes the latest update on the wildfires.
They're living in this RV, hearing for the first time the damage to their communities.
Or around 100 structures, 100 homes that have been lost.
So we know that the fire is growing. We know that more homes are being lost.
It's devastating. I mean, the hard thing is that people don't know.
But now they're finding out.
What do you say to someone that they lost their home?
This town councillor spent the day telling people their homes are gone.
We have people here with not 5 cents in their pocket, and that to me is heartbreaking.
Did you go to Bouncy Castle?
Yeah. This family knew last week they'd lost everything when they saw this video from their doorbell camera.
My heart literally shattered.
We're trying to keep things as normal as we can for our 7-year-old. He knows that, you know, his home is gone and his school is gone.
Along with the sorrow, there is anger. Several fires have been sparked in the community in the last few months. Some believe there's an arsonist.
To know that someone potentially deliberately did this, it puts it at a different level of grief.
The RCMP Major Crimes Unit is investigating.
A number of the fires have been identified as being non-intentional acts. There are also fires, though, that we are treating as very suspicious.
In St. John's, police have charged and fined a 20-year-old man for allegedly starting a string of brush fires Tuesday night. Meanwhile, this family is volunteering at the evacuation center, trying to help others instead of focusing on all they have lost.
Our son just filled up our car with his stuffed animals, but a lot of his toys, he didn't take, and so he's now starting to have that regret.
But the main thing is my family got out, my dog got out.
Just over those hills, the Kingston fire is burning out of control. Still growing, still destroying. Karen Pauls, CBC News, near Victoria, Newfoundland.
An evacuation order has been expanded in Nova Scotia's Annapolis County as a growing wildfire there burns out of control.
I took everything, important papers, things like that. They just throw it in something, but they're there.
More residents were ordered to evacuate tonight with warnings that staying could risk serious injury or death. The fire began Wednesday, likely sparked by lightning. In New Brunswick, an evacuation advisory was briefly in effect today for residents northwest of Miramichi. Several fires in the area continue to burn out of control, and new ones were ignited by overnight lightning strikes. The Oldfield Road fire, which has been burning for more than a week, is still out of control, but doesn't appear to be growing. On Vancouver Island, a major wildfire is just 8 kilometers from the city of Port Alberni tonight. There's hope. Rain in the forecast may help. Julia Wong shows us a city on edge, ready to leave at a moment's notice.
On Vancouver Island, crews are working around the clock to protect the small city of Port Alberni. The Mount Underwood wildfire grew about 60% overnight, now more than 34 square kilometers. People in dozens of properties have been ordered to leave. Close to 200 other homes are under an evacuation alert.
So that's where I am.
Including Diane Thames's place.
Stressful, and yet you look on the TV and you just see everybody else in other parts of Canada and you just think, deal with it.
Glenn and Cheryl Hansen have been planning for days in case they have to leave.
Yesterday we loaded the truck right full of whatever we could and needed, and food, and trailered the boat, and the car was full of stuff. Took it all out to my daughter's place, which is probably 20 kilometers that way. Hopefully that's safe.
Well, how much clothes should we take? Started out with a little bit and then a little bit more the next day, and then it ended up that yesterday I didn't really have much to wear.
Officials say dry and windy conditions fueled the fire's explosive growth. 87 firefighters, 11 helicopters, and 12 pieces of heavy equipment are now fighting the wildfire. The cause is under investigation.
This is a challenging fuel type where we have a lot of big, heavy fuel out there. Rain will only just serve to buy us some time to get our crews in there.
Officials are trying to get the situation under control.
We can never assure people 100% that things are under control. That's why we have an alert in place. That's why we have an EOC activated. We want our residents to be prepared always. We know that the situation can change.
The message to the community here stay vigilant. Officials say they have no plans to extend any evacuation orders or alerts for now. Julia Wong, CBC News, near Port Alberni, British Columbia.
The lead up to a high-stakes meeting in Alaska is intensifying. The U.S. and Russian presidents will be talking about the war in Ukraine. And as Ashley Burke reports, Donald Trump is shifting his tone over the chances of securing a ceasefire.
Mr. President. After days lowering public expectations, Donald Trump suddenly setting them high, describing his meeting with Russia's president as a chess match he's favored to win.
I think that President Putin would like to see a deal.
Trump says he's now convinced Vladimir Putin will agree to end his war in Ukraine, and says there's only a 25% chance talks will fail.
He would much rather take over all of Ukraine, but I am president, and he's not going to mess around with me.
In Russia, Putin met with negotiators and released a video saying the Trump administration is making quite an energetic and sincere effort.
Well, I think dialogue is very important.
But in Alaska, the Kremlin's top negotiator told CNN what's important is hearing their side.
And there are lots of misunderstandings, misinformation about the Russian position. And it's also a chance to sort of reset, if the meeting goes well, U.S.-Russia relations.
Ukraine's president's concerned Putin could convince Trump that Ukraine should give up land. Volodymyr Zelensky meeting with the UK's prime minister, continuing his tour with European leaders to put pressure on Trump. What he wants is an unconditional ceasefire.
Russia wants territory.
This former Biden-Harris senior advisor says Trump is known for his last-minute negotiation techniques.
President Trump is trying to send a strong message to President Putin right before the meeting, indicating that I want to reach a deal, and I really want to do this not only because I happen to want peace between you and Ukraine, but also I want my Nobel Peace Prize.
If Friday's talks go well, Trump says he wants to set up a trilateral meeting with Zelensky, and quick. But if it goes badly, says he's headed straight back here to the White House. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Washington. Lindsay Duncombe is in Anchorage, Alaska tonight ahead of this U.S.-Russia summit. And Lindsay, what can you tell us about this location for the presidential meeting?
Well, this is a remote and rugged setting for a meeting that could be a key turning point for the war in Ukraine. And this actually used to be Russia. The Russians colonized this area. They established a fur trade and then sold the land to the United States in 1867. And there's still evidence of that Russian history. There are Russian Orthodox churches, there are restaurants here in Anchorage that still serve Russian food. The meeting will happen at an Air Force base that was also key to U.S. defenses in the Cold War. Certainly ahead of the meeting, we are seeing some welcoming from the governor and the mayor, but also anger as there are people protesting the fact that Putin is meeting the president here.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Lindsay Duncombe in Anchorage, Alaska tonight. In the Middle East, Israel's finance minister says the country is moving forward with plans to build thousands of homes in a disputed West Bank settlement. As Susan Ormiston reports from Jerusalem, the announcement comes as global leaders ramp up calls to recognize a Palestinian state.
Israeli finance minister Bezalel Smotrich provoked a political storm. Whoever in the world is trying to recognize a Palestinian state, he said, will receive our answer on the ground. Furthering plans to build more than 3,000 homes in a controversial E1 area, which would divide the West Bank and cut it off from East Jerusalem. It buries the idea of a Palestinian state, said Smotrich, because there's nothing to recognize and no one to recognize.
Canada intends to recognize the state of Palestine.
A swipe at Canada, the UK, France, and Australia, who recently moved to recognize a Palestinian state in September. In Ramallah, strong rebuke.
Our reaction is we refuse it profusely. Profusely. We do not accept any kind of partition or any kind of annexation of any meter in Palestine.
At a bazaar in Hebron, this Palestinian said it's a pattern.
Because if we look at the future and we see these Smotrich and Ben Gvir and his government statements, we see that their plan is to kick us out. They said it clearly, but also it makes us see that we don't have a future here, and that's what they exactly want us to see.
While the war rages in Gaza, drawing much of the world's attention, expansion of Israeli settlements has grown in the occupied West Bank, wedged between Palestinian towns.
Smotrich is able to push these steps and to promote his policies because there are no consequences. So if Israeli policymakers don't face consequences for this huge violation of international law, then it will go ahead.
Canada sanctioned Minister Smotrich last June for what it said were repeated incitements of violence in Palestinian communities. And last month, it said it opposed advancing E1 settlement. But final approval could come next week. Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Jerusalem.
In Alberta, a judge has decided to proceed with a review into whether a proposed referendum question on separation is constitutional. A separatist group wants to ask Albertans, do you agree that the province of Alberta should become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada? The province's chief electoral officer had referred the question to court last month to determine whether it violates the Constitution. Today, the judge denied an application to stop that review, saying a full hearing will benefit democracy. The family of a murdered Ontario woman is speaking out. They're angry that her killer could get parole earlier after a strip search incident at jail. Thomas Müller has more, and just a warning, this story contains distressing details.
It was the middle of the night in June 2022 when Vanessa Vergione's ex-boyfriend was captured on video breaking into her home to kill her. Now Vanessa's murderer is being handed a more lenient sentence, causing yet more trauma.
I have those moments where I can't believe she's gone, and I still expect her to call. I expect her to show up.
Caught up in a mass strip search in jail, the killer claimed officers in riot gear breached his charter rights. On Thursday, a judge agreed, ruling Linville Ritchie can apply for parole early after only 18 years, even though he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. The judge calling the treatment cruel and unusual, an unnecessary and excessive response against all inmates.
It's not like in 18 years when he applies for parole, Vanessa can apply an application to come alive again and be with her son.
Court heard Vanessa was nearly decapitated, her lifeless body later found by her 7-year-old son. Her case is just the latest that Ontario courts are being forced to re-examine, with nearly 200 inmates targeted in that collective punishment at Maplehurst Jail.
The pressures under which staff may operate there lends itself to treatment that is very unfavorable to detainees.
As for Vanessa's killer, he left her home that night carrying a bag full of bloody clothes. While he's locked up, there's no word on any punishment for jail staff.
Anyone who doesn't follow the rules will be dealt with, simple as that. Everyone, they might be criminals, but they're human. We got to treat everyone with respect.
The incident at Maplehurst is the focus of a provincial ombudsman investigation. In the meantime, the ministry in charge of jails won't say if anyone has been suspended or fired. Thomas Müller, CBC News, Toronto.
There are fresh calls for Ottawa to back farmers as China's new canola tariffs kick in.
We need a prime minister who will actually stand up for all Canadians, including and especially our prairie producers.
How the industry got caught in the crossfire of a trade fight. New insight into one of Donald Trump's closest advisors.
Talks that went very, very well. Steve was there.
What to know about U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. A 10-year-old musician making every note count. How the young busker is helping wildfire evacuees. We're back in 2. Ontario is ordering public servants back to the office starting this fall, 4 days a week, and then full-time in January.
Everyone's more productive when they're at work, and how do you mentor someone over a phone?
The province's current mandate is 3 days a week in the office. At least one union representing workers says it will fight for worker flexibility. Pressure is mounting on the government tonight as China slaps a punishing new duty on canola seed from Canada. That market is worth billions to farmers here. Kate McKenna shows us why they feel left out compared to other industries hit hard by tariffs.
With China targeting Canada's multi-billion-dollar canola industry, farmers say they feel deserted.
It's disappointing that we've seen other industries attacked by tariffs from different countries, and there's been kind of swift and immediate response or task force, and we're here, there's been nothing.
China is now imposing a duty on canola seed, an extraordinary rate of more than 75%. It's effectively closed Canada's biggest export market.
Well, there's a lot of concern, a lot of anxiety because farmers put in their crop and it's in the field right now. It's grown and they'll be harvesting it soon. There's nothing they can do about it.
The move marks an escalation in an ongoing trade dispute. China took aim at canola after Canada put tariffs on EVs, steel and aluminum from China.
I would say that we as Canadians, and certainly as a federal government, need to have a very serious look at whether we're ready to sacrifice an industry that's larger than all three of those industries, employing over 200,000 Canadians at this point in time.
Western premiers say the federal government must act.
We might be able to stand up to Donald Trump tariffs on one side or People's Republic of China tariffs on the other side, but multiple tariffs stacking up in multiple directions, that's something that we have to be able to have a coherent plan for as a country.
Ottawa has offered relief to the tariff-stricken steel and softwood lumber sectors, but nothing for canola. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre called out the Prime Minister.
This Liberal government couldn't care less about the West. They disrespect its main industries. The Liberals don't care about Western farmers and Western producers.
In a statement, Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's working with industry to find solutions. But with harvest on the horizon, producers say they want action now. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
From deals to diplomacy, how Steve Witkoff became Donald Trump's go-to war advisor.
It's really quite simple, actually. I would say they're best friends.
He has the president's trust, but is the U.S. special envoy out of his depth?
We're down 560 people in the U.S. National Weather Service.
Fears are growing in Florida that recent funding cuts could cost lives this hurricane season. The National breaks down the story shaping our world next. Vancouver's Major League Soccer franchise is basking tonight in newfound star power since the Whitecaps signed German champion Thomas Müller. They've already seen more money pour in. Yasmin Renea shows us the fan excitement.
From the moment he touched down, Thomas Müller had fans buzzing. Greeted by members of the Musqueam First Nation, the German superstar now officially a Vancouver Whitecap after 25 years with powerhouse team Bayern Munich.
I want to be on the pitch as soon as possible. That's why I'm here.
Less familiar to North Americans than other international stars, but the attacking midfielder is among the most decorated players of his generation.
There's never been a signing of this magnitude for the Whitecaps. And so it's kind of special for the fans to say, hey, we got a big fish and this is our guy.
The star power comes as the Whitecaps win more games but face challenges off the pitch. The team is up for sale and searching for a new stadium to resolve scheduling conflicts, raising fears it could move to another city. That's not the plan right now, but
there's always the threat of another team, poaching a team out of the market with a better stadium deal or a better financial deal.
This journalist says the Whitecaps are also overshadowed by other West Coast teams.
LAFC, the LA Galaxy, the Seattle Sounders, those are all big clubs that get big names, that have big attention from MLS fans.
There are hopes Müller can take the Whitecaps to new levels and also bring the team global recognition.
It'll only, I think, draw in more crowds with Müller coming, so. Yeah, so I'm trying to be glass half full and stay hopeful.
As for Müller himself, he says he's focused on winning titles. Yasmin Renea, CBC News, Vancouver.
Time to break down the stories shaping our world, starting with deep doge cuts and their looming impact on hurricane season. Nearly a year after back-to-back hurricanes battered Florida, some worry recent White House cuts will make the upcoming season even worse.
It's not just climate that's become politicized. Now it's weather, too.
We'll examine the impact of Trump cuts in the eye of the storm. But first,
he seems to misunderstand pretty much everything.
U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, the president's point person on the war in Ukraine, accused of making serious blunders in the run-up to tomorrow's crucial meeting between Trump and Putin. Eli Glasner spoke to those who know Steve Witkoff to find out why Trump trusts him and how qualified he really is.
When it comes to President Trump's plan to end conflicts around the world, one name comes up again and again.
I spoke to Steve Witkoff. Talks that went very, very well. Steve was there. Steve Witkoff, who has done a fantastic job.
America's special envoy is many things.
It's really quite simple, actually. I would say they're best friends.
Steve is a master negotiator.
But is he qualified? So it's time to ask, who is Steve Witkoff? Witkoff's most important quality might be his proximity to the president. Isaac Stanley Becker profiled him for The Atlantic.
President Trump has many friends, many acquaintances, but that he is really the first among equals.
Their story starts in the 1990s. As Witkoff told Tucker Carlson, for him, Trump was like Michael Jordan.
He'd come to 101 Park Avenue where I was a lawyer. He had this swashbuckling style. I used to see him come in and I used to say, God, I want to be him.
I've known Steve probably over 30 years at this point.
Bob Knackel is a real estate broker in New York. He says as Witkoff's real estate empire grew, so did his friendship with Trump. Like Trump, Witkoff began to develop properties in New York and Florida, where the fellow billionaires would play golf.
You're spending 4 or 5 hours with them in an environment where it's just you and a few other folks. You get to see the side of people that you rarely get to see.
And in 2021, in the aftermath of the Capitol Hill riot, when Trump retreated to Florida.
It was Steve Witkoff who was really there by his side at Mar-a-Lago or at Bedminster on the links, spending time with him and really helping to shepherd him through that period.
And it was back on the links as Trump's return to the White House looked like it could happen, that Trump made his friend an offer.
Did he want to be an ambassador? No, he expressed an interest in something a little bit more informal, and Senator Graham said that he told him about this role of special envoys, and then candidate Trump essentially said, you know, sure, Steve, whatever you'd like to do.
But as a real estate developer, what does Witkoff bring to the world of statecraft? Is it, as Trump would say, all about the art of the deal?
Real estate is not the real estate business. It's the information and people business. It comes down to the way you get along with people and knowing where the leverage points might be in negotiating.
One of Witkoff's first successes was in May this year when he secured the release of an American hostage from Hamas. He's visited the region many times. As a father who lost his own son to a drug overdose, Witkoff says he empathizes with the hostage families.
I think my son allows me to have this sense of, I relate to a lot of the hostage families.
But critics have questioned if that empathy extends to Gaza, as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu moves forward on the plan to occupy Gaza City.
We've not seen either Trump or Witkoff make the kind of public break with the Prime Minister's office that European countries and other governments have gotten closer to doing.
Critics have also questioned Witkoff's judgment and bias when it comes to ending the war in Ukraine.
His interactions with President Putin have been the source of a lot of controversy. I think most notably when he returned from one of those visits and did an interview with Tucker Carlson,
where he talked about President Putin.
I liked him. Yep. I thought he was straight up with me.
And parts of Ukraine, Russia has occupied.
They're Russian-speaking. Yep. There have been referendums where the overwhelming majority of the people have indicated that they want to be under Russian rule.
But Ukraine describes the referenda as shams and a violation of international law. How have you felt watching Witkoff being almost the de facto Secretary of State?
Terrible. First of all, he's not coordinated with the State Department.
Anders Åslund is an author and economist.
He appears in the meetings, 5 meetings with Putin, as far as I can understand, without his own interpreter and without any assistant. And he seems to misunderstand pretty much everything.
Åslund says it was Witkoff that gave Trump the impression that Ukraine and Russia would both give up territory.
There'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody.
Now a German newspaper says Witkoff got it wrong.
Witkoff thought that Putin offered to withdraw the Russian troops from 2 regions of Ukraine. Well, instead he demanded that the Ukrainians withdrew from those 2 regions. So it was a complete misunderstanding, and there was nobody there to correct it.
So who is Steve Witkoff? Someone who shares quite a lot in common with Trump. Outsiders from Queens and Bronx who made their fortunes first in New York. Now the billionaire buddies are also business partners, with both families profiting from the Trump cryptocurrency business, World Liberty Financial. Andrea Stricker is a policy analyst who's critiqued Witkoff's negotiations with both Iran and Russia.
I don't think we can hit him too hard because he is doing a really difficult job as a real estate person, but there is quite a bit at stake.
You're being generous, but it's also the situation that we are having to talk about how good a job a real estate person is doing negotiating peace terms with Moscow.
This is what presidents can do. They can appoint whoever they would like, a trusted advisor with any background, but it doesn't necessarily result in success, as we've seen.
So for all of Witkoff's pluses and minuses, if he's anything, he's the man Trump trusts.
And there's still no word on whether the billionaire special envoy will attend Friday's summit in Alaska. Still ahead, the U.S. forecaster warns the upcoming hurricane season could be especially dangerous.
If we're not getting timely, accurate information, then we can't make timely, accurate decisions.
Why funding cuts are fueling fears around safety. A combustible mix for the upcoming hurricane season. Increasingly stronger, more unpredictable storms driven by climate change. And Trump administration cuts to the agencies that monitor them.
We're down 560 people in the U.S. National Weather Service.
Now, as Tropical Storm Erin swirls in the Atlantic, there are fears the U.S. may not be prepared. Katie Nicholson traveled to Florida, where forecasters warn Trump's cuts pose a real and present danger to public safety.
Call it paradise lost. Beach houses normally full of vacationers, still full of debris. Nearly a year after 2 hurricanes slammed this part of Florida, just 2 weeks apart.
So the road was, 10-foot high sand on either side, debris, cars, just everything that you can imagine.
There was sand on this road that was up this high. We couldn't even they had to dig us a hole to get out of the parking lot.
These waters along Florida's Gulf Coast, calm at the moment. Lethal when hurricanes Helene and Milton whipped them up and over the land. People turned to forecasters, like veteran Miami meteorologist John Morales, who struggled to keep it together on air as he saw the data roll in.
It's just an incredible, incredible, incredible hurricane. It has dropped It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific.
The speed of Milton's intensification, one of his worst nightmares, come true.
Here it is happening in front of your very eyes. Stronger, rapidly intensifying hurricanes because of the warmth of the oceans, record level warmth, and the depth of that warm water. I've known for decades that this would happen, so that adds the level of frustration to what I was feeling that day.
But this season, there's something else.
We're down 560 people in the U.S. National Weather Service. This includes meteorologists that are mission specialists. It includes maintenance people.
Since February, the Trump administration has cut roughly 2,000 jobs at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and its National Weather Service. NOAA is the agency that tracks and researches weather and climate. It's a leader in hurricane research and forecasting.
I think it's important for people to fully understand the impact and what such a cut means. With fewer people,
John Cortinas retired from NOAA after Trump's election, says he saw the writing on the wall. He was a key player with 30 years of service, a former director and science lead.
it's hard to even describe, I think, the amount of responsibility that someone in those positions feels. You're responsible, meaning the meteorologist in this case, for keeping watch for the rest of the population.
The cuts have ignited widespread protest and dissent, Morales among the many speaking out, even on his spots with NBC.
Let's talk about the federal government cuts to the National Weather Service and to NOAA. What you need to do is call your representatives and make sure that these cuts are stopped.
He fears with climate change's escalating threats, now is not the time to scale back.
It's really a combustible mix to live in an era in which there is a higher chance that any tropical storm can become a Category 4 or 5 hurricane, and that's been, peer-reviewed science looked at all over the world. This is already happening. We're getting more of the stronger hurricanes happening. Now we're going to mix it with degraded ability to study, monitor, forecast, and warn for these. It's funny because it's not just climate that's become politicized. Now it's weather too.
This morning, the National Weather Service is reversing course in the process of hiring back hundreds of its workers after those massive cuts and federal hiring freeze we told
The
you
administration announced last week it now wants to fill 450 positions at the Weather Service, months after axing more than 500 jobs there. But it may be too late for this hurricane season.
It takes time to train people. It takes time to acclimate them to the kinds of things that the Weather Service does. And
Hundreds of research jobs are still eliminated.
Potentially, it could mean a less accurate forecast. That's what it comes down to. The more accurate our forecast can be in terms of understanding the intensity when it hits, understanding how much rain may fall when it hits, understanding where it will hit, has real impacts on people's safety, but also on economies.
The vacancies have already meant less weather balloons are being launched, and there are fears they may also limit the number of hurricane hunter flights this year, those specially designed aircraft that fly into the eye of the storm and gather crucial data.
We also have radar that's on the tail of the aircraft itself. So as the aircraft flies to the storm, we get a better understanding of the structure of the rain, of the precipitation, of where it's falling, how heavy it is, and that kind of information.
The Trump administration is also proposing axing climate research labs across the country. Some study extreme weather. Perhaps not a surprise. Project 2025, the 900-page right-wing wish list written by some key players in the Trump administration, called NOAA and its research and weather divisions one of the main drivers of the climate change alarm industry, and said it should be broken up and downsized.
So how did this become politicized? Just forecasting hurricanes, which affect everybody, Republicans, Democrats.
Well, I think it got caught up in kind of the political discussions about climate. And so if you think NOAA is just an agency that conducts research, forecasts, et cetera, in climate and climate change, and you don't fully believe in what's being discussed about climate change, then you're going to try to reduce that agency. And I think in reducing that agency, there's collateral damage.
We got our critical infrastructure branch, Health and Human Services, and public safety all the way out there.
At the Miami-Dade Emergency Management Offices, there's no time for politics.
Category 1, you'll see we got to start evacuating these folks right here.
When hurricanes hit, Pete Gomez oversees the nerve center that tries to keep people safe.
Category 2, we're tied at the hip with NOAA and the National Weather Service, so they have an actual seat here. So even before a hurricane is off the coast, we're in contact with them. Here in South Florida,
He says he's heard rumors about how cuts at NOAA could impact forecasts.
How does that complicate your job to keep the public safe?
well, if we're not getting timely, accurate information, then we can't make timely, accurate decisions. So it's important for us to get it as quickly as possible so we can get the message out to the public. One of the things that always worries us in the world of emergency management is people not evacuating.
I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
10 months later, Tampa Mayor Jane Castor apprehensive about what this peak season may bring.
I mean, I was a police officer for 31 years prior to becoming mayor, so I've been involved in these hurricane responses, and we've had the same NOAA team here in Florida basically that entire time. So that is very worrisome. Unfortunately, we're not going to find out the impact of those cuts until that storm comes. And so that is something that I'm very concerned about.
Lawmakers and scientists are trying to push the Trump administration to reverse course. And Congress, on both sides of the aisle, is so far resisting the administration's pitch for further cuts next year. But nature may also force the administration's hand.
Peak hurricane season is just ramping up, and the waters here in the Gulf, just along the Florida coast, feel kind of like a bathtub. They're hovering around 30 degrees Celsius. Those are the kind of temperatures that can help fuel and intensify storms. Would it take another Katrina type event to maybe have lawmakers rethink some of these proposed cuts?
Yeah, I think that would make a difference. Unfortunately, it would take another large event before people really paid attention and understood what impacts may be felt by reducing funding for NOAA.
The National Hurricane Center, which falls under NOAA, is predicting an above-average hurricane season.
Katie joins us now from Ottawa. And Katie, could these cuts have any impact on Canada?
Yeah, it's a fair question, especially given the fact that NOAA and Environment and Climate Change Canada share so much information throughout the year, but particularly during hurricane season. What Environment and Climate Change Canada told us is that they do have contingency plans if there become any issues with NOAA's data sharing. It has relationships with other national hydrometeorological entities as well as the World Meteorological Organization. But here's the tricky part. All of those organizations, they also have relationships with NOAA. Christine?
All right, thanks for this, Katie. Katie Nicholson in Ottawa. Still ahead, a 10-year-old busker raises money for fire evacuees in Newfoundland.
I feel like it's the right thing to do when giving it to people that need it more than I do.
What motivated him to step up and help in our moment. This is Xander Wright handing over a donation to the Salvation Army. Money he raised by playing his accordion on the streets of St. John's. The 10-year-old musician has raised more than $400 for fire evacuees. Tonight, his helping hand is our moment.
I went in front of Needs Convenience Store for 4 hours and raised donations to help people in the fire. Around $440. I'm donating it to the Salvation Army and Red Cross. They were all really grateful and kind to me that I was donating the money. We could be asked to evacuate at moment's notice. Makes me feel sad, and I want to do my part to do the best I can to help. I feel like it's the right thing to do when giving it to people that need it more than I do. My favorite part about playing it is like making other people happy. I learned it because I really like Newfoundland music, and it's a Newfoundland tradition. It makes me feel really good on the inside, proud to be a part of this province that's so kind and helping.
Kids these days can be pretty amazing. He raised another $100 in donations just this morning, and the Salvation Army and Red Cross say Xander's act of kindness has been wonderfully inspiring for volunteers and evacuees alike, reminding them helping others, even in small ways, can make a big difference. From all of us here at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Christine Birak. Take care.